on this journey, and I'm going back a long time, so I'm talking 40 years when I first started. My father was in the work, and him and I worked together. He came from the UK. He was more of a healer and an address person. He never did the readings or anything. And this was my first church I ever came to, the first day it opened. And I lived in the area. And then as time went on, John and I actually ran the church when there was 2 services a week. So it was a big commitment back then, and it still is. And I'm not sure that any of us really understand the commitment people make to this work. And if I want to call it work, then what I'm talking about is the effort and the time that we need to put into not just building up a skill, but building up our connection with ourselves, with spirit. And it takes commitment, it takes perseverance, and it takes dedication. And it's not something you can pick up and run with and think, well, okay, in 6 weeks' time, 2 months, a year, I can go out and do readings and I'm ready to change the world. You may already be gifted in that sense, but you need to have quality to your work. And when I first came here, I didn't know a thing really. My father was in the UK, I was here. I sat in group with 4 other women that I came across in the area. And for 2 years, the 4 of us, it was the blind leading the blind. None of us really knew what we were doing. And certainly there was never any training, and I've never been trained in anything. I've never been trained in any of this work. So any training that you might want to adhere to is the training I've done within myself and with my work with spirit. And over time, as we sat, the 4 of us together, we learned a lot about ourselves. At the time, when I look back now, a lot of what we saw, what we felt, what we heard, we took as messages from spirit. And I can say, going back, that looking back now, there were some things there that we were afraid of. Not of ourselves, or not even of spirit, but perhaps what we thought was a prediction or a premonition. Of course, as I've grown and I've expanded my thinking over the years, I can look back now and see that everything I saw, everything I heard, was coming from within me. It was my own fears, my own suspicions, my own unworthiness, my own inability to connect with the real self. So I say to you now that through my time in this work, I can tell you that everything that you see when you sit in meditation, everything you feel, and everything you hear is coming from a connection within yourself to spirit. So a part of it is you. It is your own ability to hear, see, and feel and receive that is coming forward. It's not coming from a place that is out there to you. It's coming from you. So everything that you create in this life, every connection you make, every time you put pen to paper and you're doing some inspirational writing, it's all coming from within you. Now that's not to say there isn't a spirit world, of course there is. We've understood that for a long time, and there's been so much proof of this for a long time. But it's not a separate place. It's one and the same as the world we live in. And as you grow and change and expand your thinking, your perception will start to grow and change. If you're about doing healing, if you're about wanting to become a medium, if you want to go to a class and learn how to read a tarot card, you need to look at the motive of why you want to do that. Is it about making money? Is that a way of making money for you? Or is it your deepest, earnest desire to bring healing into the world? And the more you can examine that within yourself, the more you'll find the truth of what you're looking for within yourself. Because I know for a long time, and certainly when I was asked to get up on platform, I'd never done any public work ever in my life, and I was painfully shy. And still, believe it or not, standing here in front of you, I still don't like being the centre of attention. But this isn't how I see this work. But when I got asked to speak, I was taking the opportunity, and I've never done a reading in my life. but I trusted my connection with Spirit. And if you can trust your own self and your connection, you'll never get it wrong. I'm not saying that everything I do is right, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that every reading that comes through me is right, don't misunderstand me. But what I can say to you is, for 40 years I've built this word called trust. Trust with my connection from those in Spirit. Not wanting somebody else to tell me what to do or show me how to do it, because I've learned that myself. And if you're really earnest about wanting to expand your understanding, then the only way you do that is to examine yourself. Is to bring yourself into the game and not say, okay, well, I'll ask a guide or I'll go for a reading and then leave it to somebody else to tell you what to do. The work, as we call it, is a journey. It's a way of life, and it comes from within you. It doesn't come from out there. And so if you're struggling with any aspect of your life at the moment, that's because it's reflecting something back about you. It's never anybody else's fault. It often looks like it's somebody else's fault. And it's not your fault either, but it's a reflection of what's going on within you. In other words, it's a sign, and everybody's always asking for signs. It's a sign that says, hang on a minute, you're not in balance, you're not in the right place within yourself. You're not in the right environment, you're not mixing with the right people, you don't have a healthy lifestyle, you're not thinking good thoughts. Because every time you open your mouth to speak, you're channeling Spirit. Every time you open your mouth to speak, you're channeling Spirit. You can't say Spirit is there and you're not Spirit. You can't believe you are the light and you're not Spirit. Because you are. We're all one. But if you open your mouth and say something that's harmful to someone else, even though they may not be around you, then you can guarantee 100% it's going to be harmful to you. And if you're speaking like that or thinking like that, that's a wake-up call to tell you something's not right in your life. All the things that connect us, or the three things rather in life as humans, as spiritual beings, the three things that connect us are curiosity, care, and compassion. Now you might know them as financial, health, and relationships. That's probably easier to understand. Because we're all linked in that sense. We all have to go through the same hardships at some time or other. But it's how you learn to handle them. It's how you learn to use them to your best advantage. And when I say best advantage, that's not to do something better than someone else. When I say use it to your best advantage, it's about how can you improve on yourself. If your life is in turmoil, then you're in turmoil. We've all heard the stories of people that have cluttered houses. We all think, well, that's saying there's a clutter going on inside. It's the same with everything. And if you at the moment are working to develop an ability within yourself, doesn't matter what you call it, doesn't matter what you pursue, nobody's actually asking you to do that. You may think, well, Spirit are telling you to do that. No, they're not. You're choosing to do that. So you have a right to do that. You have a right to choose to go down that path, or you have a right to choose to go down that path. That's what we call our will, our self-will. But when you make that choice, make sure that you own it, because it's your choice. And make sure you do everything you can to the best of your ability to give whatever you choose to do quality. It's a bit like planting a garden, a veggie garden or a flower garden, whichever one is your preference. It's a bit like planting a garden. You're not going to put weeds in it, surely. You're not going to put dead plants in it, and you're not going to put flowers in it and then not look after them, and so they wilt and die. And anybody who has a garden like that, I would encourage you to go and have another look at it and realise that that garden is a reflection of the garden of life within you. It's your inner garden that we're talking about. So when you plant something, make sure you look after it. Make sure it's what you want in the garden. Make sure it's a vegetable that you're going to eat or share. Make sure you're just not going to put it in there and walk away and forget about it and say, get on with it. So see what you can do by yourself. Because that's not how it works. So when you plant something that's reflective of a part of you. Sometimes life seems really difficult and sometimes it seems like we're struggling. But we don't have to struggle. We have to stop. We have to take time. We have to look at ourselves. And you may think, well, my life is overwhelming and I can't make the changes that I want to make. This gets in the way, that person gets in the way, my health gets in the way. These are just excuses that we're making up. If one person can change, everybody can change. And if your life is at that point where you're feeling overwhelmed, then don't even bother trying to fix it. Just take a step back and do something simple. Go and buy yourself a plant. And let that plant, if you don't want to do the garden, let that plant be a reminder that you're now going to focus on the beauty in life. You may not feel like you can physically change your life. You may not feel like you can fix your health. You may not feel like you can mend your relationships, but you can, because everything's an energy and everything is reflective of us. So if you went out and bought a nice plant, one that drew your attention with lots of colour, give it its love, give it its attention, watch it grow, watch it nurture, watch it change. And you may think, well, that plant's just a plant. It's not affecting me in any way. But of course it is. Because you've taken the first step to do what you can do. Not what you feel you can't do. Do what you can do. We talk about cluttered houses. If you're not into plants, don't worry about the plants then. Get something in your house that just doesn't seem to you anymore and take it away, give it away. Go to a shop, an op shop, an expensive shop, whatever your taste is, and buy yourself something nice and put it somewhere that reminds you that this is the beauty within you that you're focused on. Forget about everything else, because everything else will then begin to change. It's like the pebble in the pond. It will send out ripples. It's the mindset that we get caught up in that makes us struggle. It's the mindset. Nothing to do with spirit. And those that you call your spirit guides, they're not separate entities. They're reflections of you. They're aspects of a part of you. Imagine that every one of those guides that you refer to, if you would just let it sink in that they are parts of you, imagine how powerful you really are. The aspects of a part of you. Of course, the other side of that means the ball's always going to be in your court. And you have to be responsible for everything you say, do, think, how you treat others, how you treat yourself. So Christmas is coming, as we all know, because it's been pushed in our faces for weeks now. And for some people it's a very difficult time. It's not always a happy time for everybody. And what can we do about that? You may feel you can't do anything. You may feel you can't change anything. But essentially or initially, whatever your belief is, Christmas was about the Christ light. Initially, that's what it was about. And hopefully it still reminds you that the Christ light, again, is an aspect of yourself. And if you can shine your light around this time even more so, then you're going to do the world a heap of good. You may not have the money to help anybody else. You may not have the resources to go and fix somebody else's life, because you can't anyway. But you can fix your own. So every time you open your mouth to channel Spirit, stop and think about what you're saying. Double check yourself. And allow the Christ light, that is the light within you, to shine. And hopefully next year, when you get the idea that this is all up to you, it's not up to Spirit, hopefully next year you'll put a little bit more time, a little bit more effort, and a little bit more determination into bringing the quality into your life, which then means you'll bring the quality into your work. I'll leave it with you. God bless.